Hello everyone, today I'll present our work titled Coupled Tensor Decomposition for Compact Network Representation. My presentation has three parts. First, I'll cover the motivations for network compression, including its advantages and challenges. Next, I'll review the taxonomy of model compression approaches, the preliminaries on tensor decomposition, and present our method, CoDeC. The word CoDeC stands for Coupled Tensor Decomposition for Compact Network Representation. Finally, I'll share our experimental results and some demonstrations. Let's start with context. In recent years, deep neural networks have grown in both parameters and computational demands. In 2016, the largest model had fewer than 200 million parameters, but today, models can reach billions. For example, GPT-4 has around 2 trillion parameters, and more recently, Grok 4 scales even to 5 trillion parameters. As these models grow, they become costly and complex, leading to problems such as slow inference speed, expensive training, privacy concerns, and environmental impacts. Model compression offers a solution. Model compression provides benefits like cost savings, reduced storage, lower computational demands, on-device deployment, energy efficiency, faster inference, and privacy preservation. However, compressing models is challenging. We aim to reduce parameter count while preserving accuracy. This balance is tough due to information loss and the need for model-specific optimization. Several model compression techniques exist, including neural architecture search, quantization, pruning, low-rank approximations, compact module design, and knowledge distillation. Our work focuses on low-rank approximations, specifically using tensor decomposition. To understand our method, let's review a few concepts. Rank 1 decomposition expresses a matrix or a tensor as the outer product of vectors. In the case of a matrix, it can be written as the product of two vectors, while for a third-order tensor, it is obtained from three vectors. What about the case of a higher rank? This idea naturally leads to the canonical polyadic decomposition, which represents a tensor as the sum of several rank 1 tensors, as in equation 3, or equivalently in equation 4. This approximation reduces the number of parameters from cubic in the dimension size to linear in both the dimension and the rank. So far, we have considered the case of a single tensor, but an important question arises: what if we have multiple tensors? Is there a more effective way to decompose them? Yes, the answer is the coupled canonical polyadic decomposition. Let us consider a set of three-order tensors. With the first approach, we can decompose each tensor separately as shown in equation 5. The second approach applies the coupled CPD, where the tensors are jointly decomposed along a shared mode. In our work, we focus on the first mode for the coupling, since it accounts for the largest portion of the parameters. It is worth noting that the coupled CPD offers a better compact representation, compared to the classical CPD, by requiring only one factor matrix A instead of n separate matrices for the individual tensors, significantly reducing both memory and computational demands. The algorithm for canonical polyadic decomposition was introduced in the well-known paper by CoDeC on tensor decomposition. But how do we extend this to the coupled case? To perform a coupled CPD, we use an alternating least squares (ALS) based approach. The goal is to compute a coupled CPD with our rank 1 components that minimize the reconstruction error. The ALS approach fixes A and C, n, to solve for B, n, then fixes A and B, n, to solve for C, n, then fixes B, n, and C, n, to solve for A, and continues to repeat the entire procedure until a convergence criterion is satisfied. Each subproblem, with all but one matrix fixed, reduces to a linear least squares problem. The detailed formulations can be found in our paper. Alright, that covers the preliminaries needed to understand our method. Now let's move on to the overview of our approach. Our framework is designed to tackle redundancy among filters in convolutional networks. The key idea behind CoDeC is to jointly factorize groups of similar filters along a chosen mode, instead of decomposing each filter separately. To make this possible, filters are first grouped based on their similarity in that mode, ensuring that filters within the same group share stronger similarity than those across different groups. The process unfolds in two stages. First, clustering the filters of each convolutional layer into a fixed number of groups, and second, jointly decomposing the filters in each group using coupled CPD. Why do we need to cluster the filters? The intuition is straightforward. Grouping similar filters into the same cluster improves the quality of the coupled decomposition. Now, how do we perform this clustering? In principle, any clustering method could be used, but we choose k-means because it is simple and effective. To illustrate the idea, let us take two filters of the same size. Their decompositions can be coupled with respect to the first mode factor matrices, as shown in the equations 7 and 8. At the same time, their truncated singular value decompositions reveal that two matrices span the same space if and only if their orthogonal projectors are identical. Based on this observation, we measure the similarity between filters using their projected distances, as formalized in the equation. Now, let's look at the second part of our framework, the coupled CPD. Basically, we run the coupled decomposition on each cluster at the same time, using the alternating least squares method covered in the previous slide. After having the factor matrices, let me explain how can we use it to replace the original convolution. In the original convolution, the input is convolved with each filter to generate the corresponding output feature map. We jointly decompose the filters to obtain the factor matrices A, B, and C. By substituting equation 13 into equation 12, we obtain a new CPD-based approach to compute the convolution in equation 14. This approach involves a sequence of mappings using factor matrices instead of high-order tensors. We observe that the coupled CPD-based convolution involves element-wise multiplications between the input tensor I and the factor matrices A, BI, and CI. This computation is described as a sequential block of convolutions with smaller kernels, followed by a summation. First, the input tensor I can be convoluted with the kernel A along the input channel dimension. The resulting tensor is then convoluted with the kernel BI along the spatial dimensions. Finally, the output of the second convolution is convoluted with the kernel CI along the spatial dimensions. The outputs of these convolutions are summed up to compute the final output tensor OI. This novel convolution approach replaced the classical convolution with the CoDeC block, which reduces both the number of parameter and computational complexity. This structure can be implemented easily in deep learning frameworks such as PyTorch or TensorFlow. We evaluated our method on 4 architectures: VGG, ResNet, DenseNet, and SqueezeNet, tested on Safar 10 and Safar 100. To validate the scalability of CoDeC, we also tested on ImageNet using ResNet 50. Additionally, we used compressed ResNet 50 as the backbone for faster RCNN-FPN, mask RCNN, and keypoint RCNN on the CoCo 2017 dataset, comparing sliming against more than 50 related works. This slide shows the compression results for ResNet 50 on ImageNet. Across all compression levels, our method consistently outperformed others in both performance and complexity reduction. Here are the results for faster RCNN on the CoCo 2017 dataset. CoDeC significantly boosts inference throughput, achieving over double the frames per second compared to baseline models. Next, we show results for human keypoint detection. All performance evaluations were conducted on a GTX 3060 GPU, demonstrating CoDeC's real-world applicability. These results highlight CoDeC's potential for enhancing neural network efficiency in demanding tasks like object detection, instance segmentation, and keypoint detection. This work used high-performance computing resources provided by the Grand Équipement National de Calcul Intensif. We are also supported by the Agence Nationale de la Recherche. The authors are affiliated with Aix-Marseille University, Université de Toulon, Université Côte d'Azur, Laboratoire d'informatique et systèmes, Laboratoire d'informatique, Signo et systèmes de Sofia Antipolis, and Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique. And the best part, the code is available on our project homepage, so feel free to check it out. Thank you for listening.